Hello and welcome to episode 146 of The Imperial Truth. This one is a little bit different. Now, work has been a bit crazy and life's been a bit crazy, and I'm trying to get everything ready for an event. Time has just disappeared. So this month's episode was delayed, and I'm going to change up what we're doing with it, which is just going to be me. I'm going to be doing something that I want to look at doing in the future. Looking at events that are going on around, and maybe what I may do if I were to go to them, or my ideal army to go to those. For this episode, we're looking at Company of Legends, which is taking place not very long, and I have models to paint, so I've broken out of that for a little bit to come and record this. So keeping it simple for the first kind of type of this little segment. It will be a segment in other shows. It's going to be the whole show. This is, I say, it's going to be a short one. It's just going to be me. So in this case, I'm looking at what I'm taking to Company of Legends, and some little thought processes on why, and then seeing how it fits in with the narrative, things like that. In the future, what I'm considering doing is, say I know there's the Istvan events going on, maybe looking at, if I was going to attend, what would I take? Or, depending on what's going on and how I want to approach it, what if I could make any army for it, what would I make? What if I could just approach it from scratch and choose to build and paint something? What army would I take to an event and why? And go through that, and hopefully we come up with some different ideas. I won't be picking the same thing every time. I won't be choosing the armies that I own every time, but looking at different legions, different forces, and looking at how maybe fitting it into narrative, or whatever, depends on the event, and we'll see how it goes from there. If it goes down well, if no one likes listening to it, then we can always scrap it. But if people are interested, then maybe I can do a bit more of that. But before we go anywhere, we want to call out Element Games, as usual, for their sterling service and their wide range of model availability. Just not just models, as we say, but paints, tools, board games, other miniatures games, a wide range in selection. They also now have their Nottingham store open up. I think their Sheffield one, I don't know. But I'm in Nottingham on my way up to Company of Legends, actually, and maybe I'll have to see if I've got time to make a swing by the Element store there. But yeah, if you're in Nottingham, you also have the option of going to Element, which is really cool. And of course, I do most of my shopping through them online. It all turns up lovely and creates even more models that I haven't yet painted, but that's all right, because I can get the paints from them as well and slowly work through the backlog. Yeah, they're fantastic. They've been fantastic to us as well, working with us on the sponsorship. And as always, I choose sponsors because I would want to use their products or services. So thank you to Element Games. So we're going to jump straight in here. Company of Legends is an event run by the Edge of Empire podcast chaps, and has been running for a few years now, taking place in a scout facility up in Durham, where there's a hall downstairs we use for gaming. There are kitchen facilities, which the girls make us food, which is all included in the price of the ticket. And there are beds upstairs and in kind of dormitory arrangements, which is also all part of the ticket, making it still, even though they put the price up a number of times, like a number of us suggested they do, still a very affordable weekend. It's a bit of a drive for me, but it's all good. I can listen to some podcasts or some books on the way. Nottingham's just over halfway, so I can stop off at Bugman's on the way out and have a breakfast, hopefully. And fingers crossed, it's the first time I've been there in 2 years, basically. So go and meet some people I haven't seen for a long time as well. Now, previous Company of Legends, they've tried to look at different ways of including narrative within their events, but also different ways of organising games. Things from having a naughty list through to planning, attacking, and defending on maps, and lots of things in between as well. And some have worked well, and some haven't worked quite as well, but it's always been fun up there. This year it's 3,000 points as usual, 5 games. There are also opportunities to play Zone Mortalis and Adeptus Titanicus as well. I'm not taking my Titanicus up because I just don't have them painted, frankly. I've run out of time. But I have made a Zone Mortalis list just in case wish to take part in that or have the opportunity to. We'll see how things go. I think I'm quite happy to play 3,000 points straight off 5 games, but you never know. Might be persuaded to try something different. Their packs well laid out. It's always good to have a nice pack. I think a lot of Heresy events that are more than there are a decent amount of Heresy events that provide, particularly 2-days, that provide very good packs. And Company of Legends guys are absolutely no different for that, making it clear in the awards section that there won't be prizes for winning games. It's about sportsmanship, the way you play the game, as much as how you play on the tabletop, and obviously supporting hobby elements as well. There are very few restrictions in the list, so Shattered Legions and Dark Compliance lists are allowed, as personally I think they should be in almost every narrative setting that allows everything else. Obviously if you're doing Isfan 3, maybe you're not doing that, but kind of generally I think they're not too bad. They do kind of say they have the right to refuse entry. I find quite often that doesn't happen. People can be kind of, are you sure? That's a bit tough. And maybe they'll deal with it that way. But the only really restrictions are allied detachments are limited to 1,450 points. And if you have an allied detachment from a Questoris Knight army, you may not take a Lord of War detachment for your primary detachment, which is, fair enough. And as a house, or all allied detachments cannot use a right of war. Nothing over the top there. Got no problems with that. I'm not using any allies anyway, so that's half of that out for me, and that's absolutely fine. And then they've written some background. So the event itself, what is it called again? It's Company of Legends, The Fall of Angels. So we're talking about the planet of Celeste, which apparently holds no real, or perceivably no real strategic value. A place of a limited number of forges in an insignificant system, and yet the traitors come in huge numbers. So they've obviously decided there's something there that they want. The planet had does have an irregular natural phenomenon called the Singing Veil. So this is something that obscures a large area of land based around these Eldar stones, which the wind blowing around causes them to sing, in inverted commas. So, but the air is obscured around these as well. As I say, there's no kind of real indication of what's going on. Loyalist forces have been directed to Celeste to destroy the traitors, whilst importantly trying to keep the planet intact. So there will be fighting on there, which is always good when you go into an event. The Loyalist defense is kind of not fully working together per se, not really all aligned in the same manner, and a bit confused when the traitors appeared to have their foot on the neck of the Loyalists. They actually retreated, and no one really knows why, and they haven't attacked again. They're kind of in this holding pattern out beyond reach. The thing about this, the veil, the Singing Veil, it's obscuring kind of their recording technology as well from the Loyalists. They haven't been able to get a good look at the traitor position, except one of the Magos kind of looking at these images, trying to get a read. Finally does kind of get a reading, showing some deployments, but as they're looking at it, when they're flicking backwards and forwards, that picture then disappears as it's been deleted from the system. So in questioning what's going on, a servitor activates behind him and kills him before seemingly, well, maybe self-combusting, just being destroyed in itself. So we've got some strange things going on, which I'm sure will be revealed as we play through the games in the ongoing narrative that they're going to provide, and they spend a lot of time on that. And that's it's always good to see how the results of your games are affecting things going on. But that's where we stand. The traitors are in this holding pattern with no one, the loyalists, really unsure of what's going on there, and us, the third-party viewers, really unsure as well. So that's the that's the stance of where we're entering play. Now, for this event, I decided to get my demon army painted. So I am running a Demons of the Ruinstorm list using the Crimson Fury Etheric Dominion. So that is, for those who aren't aware, the Khorne-esque one. I could probably bring up. So the Crimson Fury Etheric Dominion. All models in the detachment with the infantry, jump infantry, beasts, or cavalry unit type gain the Rage special rule. So extra attacks and charge. Models with a monstrous creature, flying monstrous creature, gargantuan creature, or gargantuan flying creature unit type instead gain Rampage special rule. So extra attacks when they're outnumbered. All the models in the detachment must declare a charge if able when they begin the assault phase within 12 inches of an enemy unit. If there's more than one eligible target, you can choose. And any unit in this detachment may take the Brass Collar Emanation, which we'll get onto in a bit. And then everyone must take it if there's multiple units in the model. And the Warlord traits table is interesting, actually. So the one is a D3, essentially. The first one is Skullkeeper, the Warlord, and any friendly unit with the Demon of the Ruinstorm special within 6 inches of the Warlord may add D3 to the wounds value calculated to see if they win combat in the assault phase, which is pretty sweet. Number 2 is Aegis of Rage. Each time this Warlord or any friendly unit with the Demon of the Ruinstorm special rule within 12 is targeted by psychic power, the Warlord may attempt to deny the witch as though they were a psyker of a higher mastery level than the psyker manifesting the power, and a part of the unit being targeted. If the deny the witch attempt is failed, the psychic power is resolved as normal and affects only its original target. You can hear some noise in the background. That's a neighbour deciding to cut their lawn or do something. Anyway, we'll carry on. Path of Blood. Whenever this Warlord declares a charge, it may roll a number of dice equal to its attack value to determine the distance moved, keeping the 2 highest results and discarding all other dice. So, Aegis of Rage is obviously very situational, but potentially very good. Path of Blood just sounds amazing, just for supremely long charges, and especially when you have to charge. Now, they could bite you in the rear because you might not want to charge at times, but hey, most of the time you will, because that's the way your army is going to be built. And Skullkeeper plus D3 to the wounds value calculated. Well, yeah, I mean, that's very good. And then you can replace your primary objectives with the following primary objective: the blood must flow. The Demons of the Ruinstorm play gains 1 victory point for every unit, friendly or enemy, that has been destroyed either in combat due to the results of an Overwatch attack or as part of a sweeping advance. I forgot that it was part of a sweeping advance as well, to be honest. I probably won't be choosing this at all. This can make games quite unfun, particularly if you're coming up against an army that likes close combat. Even if they're getting a point for killing you, you're getting a point for killing you. So you're coming out evens if it's done in combat, and if you take the enemy down, you're scoring points as well. So even as Overwatch, actually. So basically, it's a bit, in some circumstances, it's just not fun. So I probably won't be picking that. So I'll run through the army quickly that I'm taking. I've played one practice game with this to try and learn the army. It certainly isn't as bad as Demons of the Ruinstorm can be. Got some models in here which, playing through the practice game, you saw actually, very dealable with. Giles, who I played quite well, and it was, he was using an all deep striking Sons of Horus army. So he had orbital assault. He had what did he have? 2 Leviathans, and he had a melter gun team. Combi melter squad. He had a plasma gun squad. He had some Justarin, Fire Raptor, a couple of javelins, and then some troops as well, obviously. But he played it well, and it showed some of the limitations. And obviously, I'm going fairly full on with a Cornate style theme here, so I'm not leaning into some of the other stuff too much. I'm keeping it fairly focused. So anyway, for my HQ, I have a Ruinstorm Demon Lord. So this is your big fella. Mine's going to have Demonic Wings, which is effectively jump pack. It's also going to have Rift Barb and Brass Collars. So Brass Collars we talked about. Brass Collars is it's a 3+ armor save, and also gives Adamantium Will. Now, almost every model in my army has Brass Collars because I can, and because that's part of the theme I'm going for. A 3+ armor save, as opposed to your 4-up, it makes a difference for things like heavy bolters, particularly can be a big one, auto cannons, things like that. What was I thinking of? There's another gun, with a 4-up armor save. Anyway, there are a few 4-up armor save guns where it makes a difference, and just generally when bolters are firing at you, obviously it's that one pip better, so it's quite useful. He is so that was my Ruinstorm Demon Lord. He has a bodyguard squad of 2 Ruinstorm Demon Brutes. So the rules for these are when you shoot that unit, that you hit the brutes first, no matter where they are. And they have got Brass Collars and Shroud of Darkness. I'm trying to remember what Shroud of Darkness. Oh, that's right. Shroud of Darkness means if you charge a unit with a Shroud of Darkness special rule, then you don't gain any of the charge bonuses. Do not gain bonus attacks from charge, just bonus attacks from charging. So reducing the attacks that are coming in on those 2. So brutes can only have 2 emanations. Ruinstorm Demon Lord can have 3. In fact, I might need to just double check that on something else. No, that's fine. Cool. And I'll talk about Rift Barb a bit at the end as well. I've got 2 Ruinstorm Demon Chosen. So these are your infantry HQ, your smaller demon HQ. They've each got a Rift Barb, Brass Collar, and Ephemeral Terror. So Ephemeral Terror means you do not suffer the penalty to initiative for charging enemies through difficult terrain, but fight as your normal initiative. So frag grenades, effectively, because they are initiative 4, which is about as high as it gets in Demon Army. But it's nice to be able to strike it at the same time as Marines, at least. Moving into my troops. I've got 3 units of 10 lesser demons. They're all the same. So they've got Brass Collars, Crushing Claws, and Ephemeral Terror. So again, 3-up armor save. Crushing Claws is rending, which is really important for demons, I think, to have some of that around, and striking initiative as well. So that's 3 units of lesser demons in that respect. I've got another 2 units of 5 lesser demons, which are equipped differently. So they've got wings, so jump pack, Sundering Fangs, and Rift Barbs. Sundering Fangs is quite a nice rule, and these guys are in here because things like Land Raiders. So, obviously as a demon army, you don't have las cannons everywhere or things like that. So you have to be able to get through the armor of vehicles. Now, some of your big guys can do it, but they don't have many attacks, and even at strength 8 or strength 9, a Land Raider can be a problem. Sundering Fangs. Any model in the unit can choose to make a single attack during the fight phase in initiative step 1. Instead of their standard normal attacks, they make a single attack that's made at twice the normal strength of that model to a maximum of 10 and gains the Sunder special rule. So the first 2 turns of the game, you are strength 10 with your lesser demons because you're strength 5 base. So you're going up to strength 10. And this is why they've got the jump pack equivalents as well, so they can go and hunt out some vehicles. I don't know if they're great units, to be honest, but if someone's coming towards me with, say, Land Raiders, particularly with stuff inside that I want to get to the stuff inside before it gets out, then I want to have tools in my list to be able to deal with them. So that's something that they can do. And also things like Leviathans, they can go in and, depending on what the Leviathan's armed with, one or two, maybe a few more, still be alive. And hopefully they can strip a few hull points off or remove a weapon, something like that. If you can remove a close combat weapon from a Leviathan, then that means charging it with your lesser demons becomes a whole lot of a more sensible option. They aren't don't have any rend attached to them or anything like that. They don't have any great AP, so you're not getting the extra bonuses that you really need to go and destroy things. But you can plink those wounds off combined with the Rift Barbs. So Rift Barb, we might as well talk about that now actually. So Rift Barb is a single model in the unit may make an attack during the shooting phase. It's only 12 inches range, and most, your best ballistic skills generally are 4 up. But its strength is user +2, AP 3, assault 1, armor bane. So when you're strength 5, first 2 turns, you're going up to strength 7 for that with armor bane, so you can reroll as well. So even Leviathans, things like that, you can get that cheeky 6 on it with the lesser demons. As you go for the bigger beasts, like the Runestorm Demon, or strength 8. So in the first turn, he's strength 2. Well, he's strength 10 for 4 turns, and other bigger stuff. Things like even the Demon Brutes further down. That means you can pling hull points off things. So if you have got that, I say, Spartans, Land Raiders can be. You want to get into the thing that's inside them, and being transports as well means you can shoot them and charge what's inside them. So Rift Barbs, they kind of sound dangerous. They're good. They're not great, but I felt that this army needed something that could take armor, and so there's a lot of Rift Barbs in there. So those 2 units of lesser demons are my kind of anti-tank kind of things. I've also then got 5 demon beasts in there. So they've got brass collars and crushing claws, so 3 up armor save and rending on them as well. And the beasts, so they move quickly, still 2 wounds, 2 attacks, strength and toughness 5 base. So they're quite cool. Into the elites, I've got 2 units of 3 demon brutes, and they've got brass collars and rift barbs. So I don't think this is the best way to equip them. But again, I want a few rift barbs around. I'm future editions of this list, I'll probably take them off these guys, because being within 12 is the key on that one. But they don't have any AP on their attacks, which is, so they can get stuck on stuff. But they are strength 6, toughness 6. So strength 7, toughness 7, first turn of the game, with 3 wounds and 3 attacks based. And of course, they've got rage as well. So when you're charging against a lot of attacks, do they do better with crushing claws? Maybe. There is also an emanation for rerolling wounds as well. For I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's something strike, sundering fangs is that one. Flensing talons, there we go, they gain shred. So that's another option for brutes, and you can rely, them being so tough, they don't necessarily need the 3 up save, but so you could go full out combat with this elite and try and rip stuff to shreds, which they will do a half decent job of. I've gone a bit middle of the road with them. It's not a problem for me. 2 units of 3 as well. I've seen units of 6 that can do some damage. But that's all my elites. In my fast attacks, I've got 2 demon shrikes. So these are fly monstrous creatures. They're strength 7, toughness 6 with 5 wounds. What's interesting is that toughness 6 value is great until it's not. And that came into our game that we played. But they've got brass collars and rift barbs, and these can fly, so they can move up the table and get those rift barbs in, and at strength 7 becoming strength 8 in the first 2 turns with the +2 for rift barbs. They are strength 10, they can get those hits through and start to plink off units. They are weapon skill 4 with 4 attacks, so they're not amazing in combat. although they do have AB2 in combat because they are monstrous creatures. So that always helps. But they're an interesting one, Shrikes. Again, I think some people think they're amazing, and then some people think they're absolutely rubbish. I think they have to be used properly, which is not always an easy thing to do. Then in heavy support, I've got 2 greater beasts, greater Runestorm beasts, I think they're called. So brass collars, rift barbs, and these I have given flensing talents to for rerolls because, again, weapon skill 4 with 3 attacks. Now, they have got rampage, so they might be getting those plus D3 attacks, but it's random. They're only weapon skill 4. When you hit, you want to make those attacks count, and flensing talents will help you with that. They're an interesting thing. They're 135 points with those upgrades. So they're coming in, so strength 8, toughness 6 with a 3-up save. And of course, all demons have got a 5-up in invulnerable. But from turn 3 on, they are toughness 6, and I had, even units of troops just rapid firing into them will cause some wounds, and a couple of bad rolls, like 2 failed saves just from attack squad shooting, double tapping at you, has reduced half your wounds. So they're an interesting beast in that they'll actually kind of do better against your las cannons because at least they got that 5-up save. They can absorb, a couple of las cannon shots, potentially not doing a huge amount. It's that weird kind of space they're in, but at 135 points, it's not necessarily a bad place, as it were. I think you can't worry too much about your greater demon beasts. You just got to make them cause havoc. So I've got 2 of those. And then I've got a Runestorm Demon Behemoth. So he is brass collars and another rift barb. Now, it could be said that he could do with flensing talents, to be fair. He is strength 8, toughness 7, 10 wounds. Oh yeah, I should say the greater beasts are only initiative 3 as well, which makes a big difference. But the Demon Behemoth is initiative 2 with 5 attacks, and of course rage again. But he is unstoppable, so he can't be instant killed, whereas the other ones actually can. So he takes D3 wounds when he takes instant death weapons. But he's 330 points, so he's way over double what the other 2 are. But those 10 wounds at toughness 7 is the big kicker there. That means your bolt guns aren't hurting him until turn 5. They don't even have a chance. And as I say, that makes a difference when that's the only thing in range and they can't even shoot him. Like there's no option to stand there and Fury the Legion, something like that, and get lucky, because that can happen. So that's my army. I've got 3 characters, 2 sitting in the units. I've got 30 lesser demons in a bulk with beasts with them, and then 2 units of 5 demons that I might go out and try and grab bits and pieces. 2 units of 3 brutes, the 2 shrikes flying around, and then 2 greater beasts and a behemoth. So I've got a few large things. I think it looks intimidating on the board. When I played Giles, it was interesting because it's always trying to get to learn how to set up with the Demons of the Runestorm, because you've got to place your markers and come out of them. Something like Giles' army is actually one of the worst things you can fight, because I rolled first and got first turn, or got to choose first turn, should I say. So if I give him the first turn, he can come down and, well, technically, if he wanted to be that kind of person, he could drop units around all of my my deployment points, my whatever they're called, warp rifts, and stop me being able to bring stuff out. That's not cool. It's a thing with the rules, but Giles wouldn't do that wholly. But it would be fair to block one off and to control board space. That's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. So I took the first turn and tried to spread out and control where he came away from objectives. We were playing War of Lies, that's right, and most of the objectives were slightly to one side. So I thought, well, I'll control that space a little bit. So if he does come down there, I can jump on him with my big stuff. But he brought down 2 Leviathans first, and one of them I put across into my back corner, away from everything, actually. And that Leviathan just shrugged off everything. It was a bit of a pain in the rear and could show you the problems you could have with a demon army with something like a Leviathan. In the end, it did kill my behemoth, and it killed a unit of lesser demons, and it got stuck on one of the units of 10, just couldn't get through them quick enough. The other Leviathan got charged by a unit of 10 lesser demons on the charge with 40 attacks with rending. Actually took me 2 or 3 rounds to kill it with those demons. So it shows you again, like, being able to charge with this kind of the army, the extra attacks you're getting can be really big. And shows those 2 fights actually show the power of the demon army. The lesser demons, the brutes, the beasts, like, these are your basic things. My 10 Ruinstorm lesser demons are 230 points, and I've given them. You could do lesser points on there potentially if you want, and they don't move. They're tough things. They're 2 wounds each, strength 4, toughness 4. So for the first 2 turns, they're strength 5, toughness 5, and they're not going to run away from combat. You have the demon rules where if they fail combat, you take a leadership test, and then if you fail that, you essentially you're probably going to lose D3 wounds on the unit. Well, 10 dudes are 20 wounds. If you can double them out, like, that's going to help, and Just Aaron could do that with their strength 8 from turn 3 on. They were doing some damage to them. But if you don't have power fists, if you've just got power axes or something, then you're slowly wading through them, but they stick around so much. The sticking power is one of the biggest aspects of demons, and the strength of those sticking power can really come from the troops and the elites, and the brutes do the same thing, because again, as I said, brutes are 3 wounds, strength 6, toughness 6. So strength 7, toughness 7 in the first 2 turns. If you've got a big unit of 6 of them, they take some killing. They really do. And there are ways to make them, tough. You can then choose what you're doing with them. I say even just crushing claws and flames and talons, meaning you're re-rolling your wounding rolls, and therefore getting more chances of the rends as well. Can be really harsh. The problem is their weapon skill 4, and your whole army's weapon skill 4. It's not bad, but there are, when people are hitting you on 3s and you're only hitting back on 4s. Now, of course, you cause fear. I had a terrible time. I think Giles failed 1 fear test in the whole game. Those turns can swing things big. When you charge into something and they fail a fear test, and all of a sudden you're hitting on 3s, and they're struggling to hit you. They're hitting on 5s. It's a big harsh kind of swing to do, because you're already resilient as well. And if you're, there were times when I had combats with the Just Aaron. I was within 6 inches of my Warp Rift with lesser demons, and he was doing like 6 wounds with power fists, and I'd save 2 on the first roll and get to re-roll because I'm in the 6 inches of Warp Rift, save another 2, only losing 2 models. I wasn't doing a huge amount back, but it was keeping me there, locking up big expensive units, which is not what Giles wanted. He did win that game in the end. I just couldn't hit for Toffee, which is a problem. He also utilised his drop pods as obscuring, not obscuring, as getting in the way, which is a clever ploy. I don't know how much he meant to do what he did, but it worked very well for him, because it's hard to clear stuff out. So if I was making an army to be really hard, I wouldn't choose this army at all. I'd be looking at maybe something like a behemoth, but the greater beasts, I think those points could be used better elsewhere. Maybe even the shrikes, depending on how you want to play that. So 3 Ruinstorm Demon Brutes are 174 points. The shrikes, as I've got them here, 180. You could argue that brutes are better value and do a lot more for that. But there is the other argument, which is always an interesting one. You see it a lot from good players of like Warhammer and 40k, Age of Sigmar 40k. When you can't reach across the table and hurt the enemy that easily, if they put a wall in front of you, the ability for something to fly over and to be able to do that might be worth it, even if it's over pointed, because it's a tool that you need to do. Now, whether the strikes are that or not, that's the debate. But I quite like them, so they're in. But a greater beast for 135 points against 3 demon brutes at 174. There are times when the beast's going to be fine. There are times when it's going to be naff. I had problems with the beasts, as I say. Giles had a couple of very good counters actually for demons. He had a fire raptor, which has fire raptors are good. I don't think they're as great as some people make out to be, but against like a lot of marine armies and things, because we talk on the podcast quite often about how everything kills marines. Like a basic 3-up save marine, they die. They do die quite happily in this game, and I think fire raptors struggle with more specialized marine kind of things, either whether it being vehicles they're not quite so good at, and then 2-up save stuff, Terminator stuff. They put a lot of shots out. I'm not saying they're bad, but I don't think they stretch too far beyond that. However, they have reasonably high strength, multiple shot, AP, some AP3, some AP4 weapons, and they put a lot of wounds on demon units. So you're either making a lot of saves. If you're getting saves, you're making a lot of them. Obviously you go down to 5-ups with the other ones anyway. But things like a greater beast, which relies a little bit on its toughness, is much less effective against something like that. Additionally to the fire raptor, he had the 2 javelins, and again there was a good number of high strength shots coming out, and sometimes it was needing 5s to wound, but sometimes it was 4s, and then some strength 8 missiles as well coming out. It was all about putting saves. Something like a greater beast just needs wounds on it. A Fury of the Legion might strike before it could charge him. One greater beast charged into a unit with extra hand weapons, and strikes after that unit, and that unit managed to take that 1 wound off just with weight of attacks, because rolling 6s to hit, it might have been 5s at that point, is a lot of it's down to weight of numbers. So these things, toughness 6 is great, but it's not the be all and end all. And the Demon Lord's toughness 6, and as I say, the greater demons, greater Ruinstorm beasts are toughness 6. It's only when you get to the Behemoth you're sitting at the toughness 7 as a base. So there's resilience there, but actually there are options that are good against demons as well. Whereas had those points been used in more base demons or demon beasts, because they're quite fun as well, quite like them, they're quick. So again, that's another threat. You've got to be putting pressure on, and being able to put pressure on when combat's your main thing, almost exclusively for this army. So it's an interesting list to try out and play with. I think at Company of Legends we've seen demon armies before. I think they've been harder, stronger lists than the one I've got. I think this list can be good, but I'm not saying it's an easy list to kill or anything like that, but I think it certainly could be a lot tougher to face than it is. But again, that wasn't the purpose of me building that list either, so I have no problems with that. I could see myself coming up into a couple of games and really struggling. But that's part of the fun for me, I think, facing those tough challenges. And I would like to see how that goes. It'll be interesting to play something like a combat Primark with this list to see kind of what I could do and how I deal with that, something like that, and a proper armoured list, because as I say, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10 rift barbs in the army. Even if they were all within 12 inches of one target, that's 7 hits. They're only AP3. Yes, they're Sunder and they're high strength a lot of the time, but I'm not going to be within 12 inches of one target. I might have 2 or 3 within 12 inches of one target and only get 2 hits through, so I have to wear units down. So if I came up against a list with 3, a Spartan and 3 Land Raiders or 2 Land Raiders, something like that, then I really have to focus in on one to take it down. Can do it in combat. Even the Greater Beasts, Strength 7, the Ruinstorm Demon Behemoth, Strength 8, so Strength 9 in combat. You're considering having to swap all the attacks out for your Strength 10 hits, things like that. There's no guarantee that you can go in and deal with armor value 14 in one go, especially when you've only got 4 attacks, 3 attacks with a Greater Beast, because you're not outnumbered at that point. It's not great when you're only weapon skill 4. So it's an interesting kind of challenge that could be. Terrain can play a part and mission can play a part with the deploying rift markers, and hopefully the people going are sensible enough and cool enough to be able to kind of say when something's not working, or maybe not that I get my own way with deploying wherever I want or anything like that, but there are possibilities that deploying rift markers can really influence the game one way or the other, and I think both players just need to be aware of that as a possibility and to play the game the right way, which is an engaging game for both players. At the end of the day, win, lose or draw, it needs to be engaging and fun. But yeah, that's my Crimson Fury Demons of the Ruinstorm 3,000 point list. Let me know what you think of me talking through it. I'll do the ZM list as well, actually, in a bit. But yeah, let me know what you think of the list and what you think of kind of this segment as well. It's a bit free form at the moment. It's a bit kind of just off the top of my head, but hopefully, particularly when I start to look at other events that I'm maybe not going to, I can do something there. The ZM list, I have no idea really what to do with ZM with demons, and I'm not changing the models around. So I've gone with, what have we gone with? Here we go. 1 Ruinstorm chosen. So character this time with Rending, Brass Collar and a Rift Barb. Worried about things like Contemptors actually in ZM, because I could struggle with those. So chosen sitting there, and Rift Barb is important for that. A unit of 16 lesser demons, so 1 big unit to really threaten, because smaller points can be influenced by something like this, and Mortalis can you know roughly where your opponent's coming as well, so that's an advantage to having a centralized bigger unit, and they all probably won't get to attack at the same time, but hey, it is what it is. But also leaning into the Blood in the Void rules, whatever it's called, I can never remember, where strength, you get rending on strength 4 weapons, strength 4 attacks. So I've got in here Crushing Claws and Flames and Talons. So Crushing Claws, if you're already rending, that rule that gives you rending makes you rend on 1 better, so rending on 5 ups. And again, Terminators in ZM could be quite frightening for demons, and Flames and Talons to be able to re-roll those wounds. Then I've got a unit of 5 beasts, so doggos with rending and brass collars. In fact, I've got 2 units of beasts in this army for a bit of pace, to be able to put pressure on and run around corridors, things like that. And then the 2 units of with the Sundering Fangs and the Jump Axe again, because I'm worried about something like a Contemptor, and having something that can go and actually put wounds onto it could be good. Also, again, movement 12 does help as well. Can go and pick off smaller units that are threatening. Yes, I know. Before anyone decides to email me, you can't have that many. We're using the combatant detachment for Zone Mortalis, and you can't have that many troops. So just going to combine the 2 units of lesser troops and the 2 units of beasts and have 3 much larger squads and swamp the board a little bit. Anyway, back to the show. And then 2 units of 3 demon brutes, this time with crushing claws and brass collars. So going again for the rending on 5 up, which will actually help things like they can then actually go and deal with a Contemptor because their strength toughness 6. So if they have a power fist, they're only doing 1 wound on them, which will, a Contemptor could easily do 3 wounds on a brute and kill 1, but then I've still got 2 guys attacking back, and with a bit of luck, it doesn't take much to roll a couple of 5 up invulnerable saves, something like that. And all of a sudden, the Contemptor only does 1 wound, and it makes a big difference over the course of the game. So it's quite a compact list. Obviously, you can't take much of the big stuff in ZM. You won't be able to move it through the different places. The Rift markers become even more quirky and weird in ZM, so that's something that we would just have to work out the best way of using them based on the terrain available and things like that. Just to make the game, again, engaging and fun for both players. But yeah, those are my 2 lists. My background, which I probably should have done at the start. So I'm thinking that when we talked earlier, when I mentioned earlier about the background they've written, you've got these traitors who have been up to no good behind this veil, and they're obviously have got some allies or some control in the loyalist deployment. But I'm assuming that they're also doing quirky, weird chaos stuff. And through either design in rituals and summonings and things like that, have brought forth this Ruinstorm army to face down the loyalists. Or they've either done it purposely through those methods, or they've been doing things that chaos do, fighting, torturing each other, things like that, and have accidentally brought forth this army of blood and pain to fight on this battlefield. And as such, I've said to the guys, because I know trying to balance an event between loyalists and traitors, I've said I really don't mind what side I play on. It doesn't bother me at all. So these demons can be here on behalf of those forces of the War Master, and under their influence, or maybe they've been brought forth and broken free of the shackles of those who've summoned them, and see the traitors as every bit as worthy as killing as the loyalists. So I suspect I won't know until game 1 exactly whether I'm needed to swap over sides, whichever side I'm on. As I say, it doesn't bother me. I quite like having armies that aren't normally chosen as loyalist or traitor to be on those sides, because you might find that some traitors have never played Demons of the Ruinstorm. Quite a few loyalists might not have, but I think it can be good for having those things, and it can fit. Demons can they're just as likely to go and kill some Marines on their own side as they are on the opposite side if the situation dictates. So there's plenty of opportunity there, and we'll see how it goes. Being very freeform with it, very allowing what happens. I want to have 5 good games of Heresy. It's been a while. I want to play the game, and we will on the next episode come and talk a bit about how the weekend went, gaming again, how the army went. Whether I'm going to throw all these models in the bin afterwards or just have to buy lots more brutes and things like that. I can tell you now, if Games Workshop ever release their winged brutes models that they had, they have 3D renders of, then I'll be buying a shed load of those models. Whether they're any good in game or not, who cares? They are fantastic, and I will have a huge brute army at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that's me done. Waffled on here for 40 odd minutes or so. The concept is to have this as a segment in the show moving forwards, to every now and then go and look at an event happening around the world somewhere, either big events or interesting events, and setting a challenge for building an army, maybe having someone on to do it with, or have two armies, one each kind of thing, and maybe look at some of the things that people are doing for those lists, those armies as well, from a narrative or a gaming standpoint, or just a new army concept standpoint as well, and maybe looking at that. So feel free to get in touch. I'm going to close the show out without a break, so because it is a short show. So you can feed back to me on greg@theimperialtruth.com. If you want to email, obviously we've got the Twitter, imperial_truth. You've got the Facebook page. You've got Instagram, Child of Fang on Instagram and Twitter as well. You can comment on the show notes thread on Facebook if you want. And whether it's feedback just on this or for other things as well, then please feel free. We're getting much closer to. We must be getting closer to the new box coming out, and we're going to talk next episode when we talk with Howard about the news and stuff like that, about the Siege of Terror symbol that was shown, and exciting times that hopefully we're going to be having in Heresy with more events going on and everything else. It's good times, but I think we'll leave it there, and until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.